G'day, folks. How are you? Hope you're doing okay. Hope you've got power. Many parts of Queensland at the moment don't have power. We've done a few struggles over the last few days with various different things, so I haven't been around. I do apologise. And this week is just getting away from me a bit. There is a lot happening. Cass is in town, so catching up with her tomorrow night. So tomorrow night's show, well, unless we do it over the dinner table, which there is half potential to do, but it'll only probably be on None 2K unless I take the laptop. We'll see. But I will have something to post up tomorrow, so there will be something to see tomorrow. A lot of things have happened since we last spoke. I've been having some deep reflections about the Voice of Freedom and the Freedom Broadcasting Network, and I got to lift my game. So been doing a bit of work behind the scenes on that. Some of it up here, some of it down here on the computer, but things are going to change a bit. So I'm looking forward to introducing a new program which will spin out onto the radio side of things as well as through the Freedom Broadcasting Network. So, and many of you might get the opportunity to be involved in that because it's very solutions orientated. And I know a lot of you have got some bloody great ideas about some of the problems that we are all facing. So if you are one of those people and you think you might have a solution to a problem that we are facing, then I'm very keen to hear from you. I will have an email address for you to send me a couple of ideas on your solution, and I'll get you on for a bit of a chat. Because unless we start talking about solutions, we're never going to find any. We can always look back and, bitch and moan about what's been done to us and how often it's been done to us and how stupid we were to let it be done to us and blah, 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 blah. But we're not offering too many alternatives. Are we thinking about the future, or are we just sitting back waiting for somebody else to bring it up? So if you've been thinking about it like I have and many others have, and it doesn't matter, I'm not talking here about constitutions. We've got plenty of people thinking about constitutions and where Australia should be going. Are you thinking about political systems? Because it's quite clear that the one we've got is broken, and I seriously doubt it can be mended in any way, shape or form. However, that doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Are there elements of that can be used or not? Is there another system that we can employ? Is there something where we all get to have a say on all the major issues, so to speak, and not have it cost us, $100 million in funding for a federal election, or God help us, a referendum? $440 million in that case, just for one side of the argument. Wouldn't it be nice if we could do that off a blockchain app, a voting app, a blockchain app that was registered to you, one vote, one phone, and doesn't matter if you've got 20 phones, you're only going to get to vote once, any one of them. Not all of them. Pick one, but just vote off that. This technology isn't far away. Isn't far away at all. And given what we've been seeing in the courts in America recently, with courts overriding the decision in the 2020 election, states' Supreme Courts overturning those results and recalling the electoral voters. And that's happened, I think, in 47 states so far. Now, mainstream media may not have told you. I think it's closer to 49 now. Mainstream media may not have told you too much about that, but it certainly has and continues to happen. In fact, there are a lot of things that are continuing to happen, probably more behind the scenes. But I suspect a lot more overtly as well, because there are a lot more people talking about it. Now, does that mean people are waking up, or we finally breaking through? No, it's not us. It's going to be others. It's going to be the mainstream media talking heads who are starting to turn this around and ask uncomfortable questions of people, and we'll get to some of that shortly. Who got in the room first tonight? Dave O, nice to see you in, buddy. Hope you're doing all right. My weekend was not too great, if I'm honest, but that's another story. yeah, mosquitoes are bloody bad around here at the moment. They are very nasty indeed. I'm just having a bit of a scroll down. Hello to everybody who's in there. Veronique, Michelle, 10 Cent. Who else do we have? Springtree. Chris is in. G'day, mate. Silver Fox. You still can't find me on Rumble. Well, hang on just 1 second. And I haven't got Rumble up at the moment, which is a bit rude of me. Can I just say, bear with me, because this is likely to have sound come up on it immediately, and we don't want that because that'll be bad. G'day to Davith, who is in Rumble tonight. So let me click this. This will be the link to tonight's show. I'll go back. Now, I'm just going to post this in the chat now, Silver Fox. So for those folks who have yet to come across me on Rumble, or the Voice of Freedom on Rumble, I've just posted that into the chat, and I will skip back one and go to oh shit, I suppose that's God, no, will that be me? You can look me up under OzEye, OZEYE, or Voice of Freedom, just between the two of us. Trying to get there we go, my channels. Get it. I don't even think I can get a link to that. Maybe I can. Wait, one. Oh, there you go. Here's the link to the Rumble channel. I'll drop that in a post now too. Whew. Right. Sorry about that. Getting a little off track. Hope we sorted that one out for you, Silver Fox. So the second link there is just to the main Voice of Freedom channel. And I think there's what says 3,000 followers on there at the moment. So if you haven't gone and joined over on Rumble yet, please go and do and follow. It's not like a subscribe, doesn't cost you anything. It only costs you, well, it doesn't cost you anything. If you want to get into the chat on Rumble, and I'll just go back to the show over there so Dev doesn't feel like I've lost him. If you want to be involved in the chat, you just have to register with them. So come up with an email address and use that. It doesn't cost you anything. They just, needs to put you in the system for whatever reason. And we'd love to see you over on Rumble, because God knows you turd are still playing funny buggers, although for whatever reason, we still seem to be playing the game on None2K and Voice of Freedom over there at the moment, even though I cannot access either of the channels. Hello, Rachel. Hope things are well in Taswegialand for you. Lily of the Fjords. My God, that sounds spectacular. Lily of the Fjords. How's everyone doing? How's the weather? Anyone in the path of the cyclone? Well, good old One Eye, our mate, who doesn't get involved in the chats, but you hear me call him Skipper Pete. He's also known as One Eye. He lives in Ingham, or just out of Ingham, as a matter of fact. So Ingham is at this point in time certainly in the wind path of whatever's coming, and if not directly in the track of the, I don't know, has it been declared a cyclone yet? Kira Lee, I think it's being called. And if it has been declared, it will probably come across the coast tonight or tomorrow morning as a Category 1 or 2 cyclone. And then if it keeps tracking inland, will turn into a tropical low, which will be dumping a huge amount of rain the whole time. In fact, I was talking to Pete up there this morning. It hadn't got wet there yet. There was no wind to speak of at the moment. But they were preparing, and he was, once he'd had a bit of a look at the map this morning while we were talking, he said, oh, yeah, we'll go out and do a few things. Yesterday, he installed his new generator, his new diesel-powered generator at home, so hopefully he's got it above the high water line. I do remember during one of the big cyclones, his place did go under for a bit, so hopefully he's got it above the water line. But yeah, big new diesel generator at home, be able to keep the lights on for a while, and more particularly keep the fridges going, which is always the hardest thing when floods come to town. And trust me, they are coming to town. I would expect flooding in North Queensland and then heading south from Sunday. and I expect it to be pretty nasty flooding as it continues coming south, because I don't think that tropical low is going to break up anytime soon. And in fact, it may well move south along the coast and just bring with it, I've seen some ideas of the rainfall expected to come with this concocted event. And in some places, we're looking at 100 mils an hour. In other places, we are looking at well over 100 mils an hour. In other places, they're talking meters of rain, not in an hour, but they are talking meters, multiple plurals, of singular. So meters. So if there is 2 meters of water where it shouldn't be, that's all got to go somewhere. And as you know, if you're in southeast Queensland at the moment, or northern New South Wales, and possibly in quite a few other parts of down the east coast, your back lawn is sodden. Your paddocks are sodden. There is nowhere for the water to go into the earth. It can only go into runoff. Your dams are probably already full. Your tanks are probably already full. If they're not, they will be real soon. And that's both a good and a bad thing, because occasionally here in Queensland, Northern Territory, top end of Western Australia, we can get rain that will fill your tank in an hour and then keep raining, and in the next hour, rip your tank off its stand and float it down the road 2 miles. So that's not necessarily a great thing. So good luck to everybody who's up in far north Queensland, around Townsville, Ayr, Ingham, Cardwell, everybody up that way. Thoughts are with you. Hopefully this won't be a terribly bad event, but it seems to be more a rain event than a wind event, if that's a good thing. But like I say, everything is sodden in Queensland, absolutely sodden. So it's going to be flooding. Roads will be cut, and that'll be main roads. I would expect Rocky to probably wind up isolated at some stage. Certainly the Bruce Highway between Mackay and Townsville is going to have some issues. But we'll find all those out in the next couple of days. We're thinking of you folks, and we reach out for any help we can give. If it's possible, you need more hands, more feet on the ground to help, and the roads are open for us to get there, I'm sure we can arrange something. So let us know. Here at the Voice of Freedom, Carl at vofhq.com will always find me. Okay. Hello, Margot. The humidity is so delightful these days, Lily. Yeah, well, I've been talking to a few Victorians who were up here for last weekend, and the humidity knocked them around a bit. Yeah, a little bit indeed. Hey, Veronique. Wow, you heard about the pole shifting. Didn't think we were up to 70%. I haven't heard any more about the pole shifting, other than apparently that was the plan. And that was the plan in 2012. I think, wasn't it the 21st of December 2012? It was meant to be the end of the world, where all timelines converged and nobody could see a future past that. Well, certainly in December 2012 from memory. And that was the reason why. Because of a pole shift. Now, something happened, something changed, something weird happened. I don't know. But there has been talk of a pole change this time around now for, well, a couple of years. Some are suggesting it has something to do with the rapture. I'm not well versed in that particular journey, so I can't tell you one way or the other what that would be. I did see a video the other day where somebody was claiming that a busload of kids had disappeared in an instant while the bus was sort of in a car crash or in a bus crash, avoiding the crash, if anything, because the bus driver didn't get hurt. He did run off the road. There were a few bangs and crashes, but some very slick editing allowed the kids, apparently 40 plus of them on this school bus, to just disappear, and it was all caught on camera. People were thinking, oh my God, where are the kids gone? And oh, it's the rapture. Well, it turns out they were half right. It was a movie, a Christian movie made about the rapture, an educational film to sort of show people what it would be like. It isn't an actual video, not something that's been going around in the world. So I know nothing more about the rapture other than pretty much that. So yeah, happy Australia Day for Friday. Chaos in our time. Your sentiments, I agree with 100%, my friend. Yes, indeed. Happy Australia Day. Woolworths. Does that give us an in? I guess it does, because that's right at the very top of my list of things to talk about tonight. Have you seen that South African bloke that's running the Australian company Woolworths? His name's Brad. Now, Brad today, and I've left the bloody paper outside, bugger. Brad today, Brad got me angry enough to go and buy the Courier Mail. I haven't bought a newspaper in years. But I got angry enough today. No, not angry. I was just motivated enough today to go and read what sort of bullshit apology, if anything wasn't an apology, what excuse he decided was worthy of a full page in the Courier Mail. Apparently, they also took out a full page of ads to go shopping for Australia Day. They mentioned Australia Day in the ads for the first time, not this, holiday weekend or this long weekend or whatever. They mentioned Australia Day. He mentioned in this letter that he wrote to the people that it was a commercial decision to not stock Australian merchandise. I saw a lot of excuses. I'm going to play. There's a bit on the project here. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to edit it. It's nearly 7 minutes long, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. But let me just play a bit of it here at the start.
Well, Brad, has Woolworths tried to cancel Australia Day?
Absolutely not, Dan, and that's what we were trying to address in our various communications today. We want to celebrate the Australia Day long weekend through doing what we do best, which is selling great value, Australian-grown fruit and veg and meat. So that's where our focus is, not in selling Australian Day specific merchandise, and we're just trying to get the record straight for the weekend.
Why did you stop selling the Australia Day merchandise?
It didn't sell, so it's mainly imported. 10, 12 months ago we made some decisions on not importing a lot of it. It didn't sell, and then unfortunately we get left with it afterwards, and we need to do something with it, which means it goes to landfill or to the waterways of Australia.
But you did talk about initially...
It goes to the landfill or the waterways of Australia. I haven't seen too many turtles washing up on the beach with a, green and gold Australia Day flag around their throat or down their neck. It may happen. Look, it may happen. There is plenty of bunting that goes on boats. I'm sure the odd one blows off, but it's not like the straw epidemic of a few years ago where, we were no longer allowed to have plastic straws because, they'd go into the ocean and get stuck in the snorkel of a dolphin. And I'm not for straws getting stuck in the snorter of a dolphin. I don't think that's a good thing. Or a turtle's neck or a nose or up its snout. But none of that's good, right? But maybe we should come up with an idea of how we can clean up the plastics in our ocean. Anyway, we're on cardboard straws, and I digress. So it's a commercial decision. Now, Woolies have discounting arms in their business. They're part of a huge conglomerate. There are many, many parts to the business. And if they didn't want to store the bunting until next year, which I would imagine would be, for 1,000 stores, let's say they each got a pallet load and they sold half a pallet load each. So there's 500 pallet loads of stuff you've got to find home for a year. I would have thought spread all over Australia, one pallet load of Australia Day stuff, a bit like the Christmas tree, Not everybody goes out every year, buys a new Christmas tree, goes out and gets put up, gets tucked away early January and gets put away in the shed until next time, or put up in the cupboard or under the bed or wherever the hell it lives. Now, I'm sure that many Australians have gone out previously and bought their Australia Day bunting, their Australia Day flags, their, boxing kangaroo flags and all the other bits and pieces. And they probably still have them. So the market is a new market every year for people who don't have the opportunity to buy a set of stupid glasses or a funny hat. Now, without getting into the argument of what colour that hat should be, what colour that flag should be, whether or not we should even be celebrating on that day, actually, no, we are going to have that argument. Australia day, the 26th of January, has absolutely nothing to do with Captain James Cook's arrival in Australia. Nothing. Nor does it have anything at all to do with the First Fleet's arrival in Australia, which was January the 18th, not the 26th. Nothing at all. Australia Day only came into being in 1948 after Australia gained its independence from Britain. No longer were we British subjects who had to travel under a British passport. Because on the 26th of January 1948, Australia was recognised as a nation with Australian laws. And every person in this nation was covered by those laws, black, white, or brindle. It is the birth of our nation for all Australians. The day we gained independence from Britain, supposedly. Now, that is the argument put forward for it. I'm not going into the other arguments about how wrong or how right that whole process is. There were things taken from us in this transfer, have no doubt, people, but I can't tell you the whole story if you can't understand the basic start of it. And I know most of you can, but the basic start of it is January the 26th is the celebration of Australian nationhood. It's independence from Britain, where every Australian, including our First Nations people, who hitherto were not covered extensively by British law, but from that day forward were covered by Australian law, protected by Australian law. Like I say, let's not get into the arguments about the law and all that other stuff. There is another story behind this, but let's get the base pattern right. If we're going to argue about the 26th of January, it's got nothing to do with Captain Cook. It's got nothing to do with any invasion that happened. It's got nothing to do with the First Fleet arrival. Nothing. Nothing at all. And these ignorant journalists who are writing stories and, mainstream online bullshit publications like news.com.au. And I did see one pop up on Sky there a while back, but somebody woke up to it and took it down for the stupidity that it is. But the absolute ignorance being shown by the authors of these, let's change that. I mean, I'm disappointed in Pat Cummins, the Australian cricket captain. Oh, well, we should change the day. It's a bit of a hoo-ha about it all. Mate, stay chasing the ball. I mean, you're bloody great at it. Bloody great. History, I'm betting, wasn't a big subject for you at school. No, because you would have been out training, bowling fast and knocking over the opposition in the A grade. But look at your friggin' history, mate. Don't get up on national television as the Australian cricket captain and say, oh, well, maybe we should move the bloody day. Understand what the day's about, you goose. I mean, serious. I lost a lot of respect for you today, Pat Cummins. A lot of respect. Because you've fallen for the lie. Now, when did this lie get propagated? I don't know how many of you are of a certain age. I guess quite a few. You'll remember 1988, our bicentennial. Remember the big ships coming to Australia? Big four-masting schooners. And I think at one stage there were over 100 historical ships sailed, maybe not all from England, but a lot from Europe, a lot from England. The Cutty Sark was one of them. And came to Sydney for Australia Day 1988. They did a tour prior to arriving in Sydney on that day, which had been decided by the Australia Day Council that the bicentennial would certainly take a focus to do with James Cook's landing and the arrival of the First Fleet. That was in 1988. You'll remember the First Fleet's re-arrival in Sydney. You can go and look it up on YouTube. It was massive. If you were alive and in Australia, you knew about it. if you were like me and you lived anywhere near a port where any of those boats or ships came into, you went and had a look. And I was lucky enough to be working at a radio station at the time that sent me down to Portland in Western Victoria, where the tall ships came in. I climbed the high mast of the Cutty Sark back when I could climb. Had good knees, good arms, and probably not the better part of a 8-year-old child hanging out the front of me. But it's a big effort to climb that rigging. I was terrified too, absolutely terrified. I did have an urge to jump and into the water, not onto the wharf. Just sorry for the trolls, because I'd seen it in so many of those swashbuckling movies, and thankfully I'm not quite that stupid. But did manage to climb down after a bit of a whinge and a radio cross from the top of the mast. But it's certainly one of the most exciting days of my life at that stage. It was only backed up later that day by being taken out by the water police out of the harbour area. And there's a little island just out off Portland called Lady Julia Percy Island. A lot of sharks out there. And then we were heading towards that, and these two coppers stopped the boat and pulled out 2 fishing rods. And while I was laughing about how good the coppers had it, the water police had it, and pulled out their 2 fishing rods. One of them has gone and cast his rod, and a very large seagull has come from nowhere and snaffled the bait and the hook. So these 2 coppers looked at me, the radio guy, complete with his microphone and his headphones on, as they reel in this seagull that they'd caught, and it had swallowed the bait. They had to put it down. They didn't use a gun, would have put a hole in the boat. But it was a day to remember. But I digress. January the 26th, 1988 was the day they changed our narrative about Australia Day. Up until then, it was a celebration of a nation. In fact, I think there was a song, Celebration of a Nation. Kind of remember that. Around that 1988 time. But they were changing the narrative about it. They were introducing James Cook. They were introducing the First Fleet and making it all about that. There were reenactments of all of that. There were no reenactments of the signing of the document that gave Australia its independence from Britain, which is actually what Australia Day is about. It's the day where every naturalised, and the reason they do it, naturalise on the 26th of January, and they have a national naturalisation ceremony that day, is for that reason. You are naturalised on the nation's day. And yet, all these bleeding hearts with a different ulterior motive, or just ignorant, want to make us feel bad, make us change the date. Fair dinkum. And I'm not going hard on Pat Cummins. I mean, he's a sportsman. Like I say, I don't expect him to have great historical knowledge. Mine wasn't exceptionally great until a couple of days ago when I read back up on what all this meant. But I did understand it was about our nation, not about James Cook. I would ask you to ask anybody who is complaining about James Cook to tell me, where did he plant the flag? Now, if you've been watching this show and you've seen most of the episodes, you've probably seen me talk about this. But where do you think James Cook planted the flag when he claimed Australia for the Empire, the Commonwealth, the British Empire? Do you think it was at Botany Bay? It wasn't. Do you think it was at 1770, the town of 1770 on the Queensland coast? It wasn't. Must have been Cooktown, because he ran aground at Cooktown, spent a couple of months there at Cooktown. Must have been Cooktown. No, it wasn't Cooktown. No, Cook planted the flag on an island in the Torres Strait and declared Australia terra nullius. Now, therein lies another story about what is Australia and what isn't. You may have heard and seen the arguments about Norfolk Island and the Cocos Islands, amongst others. They are Australia. Us on the mainland, we're not Australia. We're just floating around, bobbing around like a poo in a pond. We are not on the land. We are at sea. Another argument. So all of this bleeds together. But only if you understand that the nation's day is the January 26, 1948. Is the nation's day. It supposedly became separate from British rule. No more British passports, no more British law, all of that. So that's what we celebrate on January the 26th. And if you're a new Australian, or if you are an old new Australian, or if you're just an Australian, that should be what you are celebrating. That's our Independence Day, if you like, at the moment, from the old dart. And even I think the most outrageous and uproarious opponents of ours from the left would have to agree that our First Nations people, who back then were just called Aborigines or worse, from that day forward, their lives have improved under Australian law, not under British rule. I think in that time we have done more to advance First Nations rights in this country than would ever have happened under British rule. It goes to show that we are working together. And we know that there are elements on both sides that are working against us coming to this solution. But now more of us are aware of that. And the more eyes watching those trying to subvert us from getting to that solution, the easier it will be when the time comes to question and gain justice from those who would subvert it. What else was I going to natter about tonight? I was going to talk about the French farmers very quickly. Now, big thing happening February 6th. I'm not sure if you're going or not. A lot of truckies. And now I believe farmers are being encouraged to go as well. Got to say, love the idea of the farmers heading to Canberra. Can they do this? That's a manure spreader. I love that. Just a manure spreader. Awesome. They're spraying shit all over the police. The police are doing nothing. What are you going to do against a manure spreader and a tractor? You don't want to climb up on the manure spreader. You fall into that. You wind up coming out the other end, and that's a bit ugly. There is a white vehicle, a white armoured vehicle in the front of that video. I don't know if you noticed. That's a UN vehicle. Now, the French are doing what they're doing, but the Germans, God love them, the German farmers have now been joined by German truckies, and they have shut down a number of major cities. Munich is crammed with tractors, or has been for the last couple of days. They are now shutting down autobahns, and they're doing so by dropping huge bales of hay, a couple of stacks high, lifted straight off a truck with a big telehandler or forklift, and two of those blocks these roads, right? They are blocking freeways, and they're putting up a number of barriers, or a number of those hay bale barriers. Doing a bloody great job, I must say. So congratulations to them. Tedros from, the UN-backed WHO, he's been in all sorts of, interesting statements coming out of Davos from him. So I got two I want to play you. This first one, he's speaking about the lies and the fake news that is making it difficult for people to agree to hand over power to the WHO. Have a listen to this.
The IMB and the IHR working group are operating amid a torrent of fake news, lies, and conspiracy theories. There are those who claim that the pandemic agreement and IHR will cede sovereignty to WHO and give the WHO Secretariat the power to impose lockdowns or vaccine mandates on countries. You know this is fake news, lies, and conspiracy theories. You know these claims are completely false. You know that the agreement will give WHO no such powers because you are writing it. We cannot allow this historic agreement, this milestone in global health, to be sabotaged by those who spread lies, either deliberately or unknowingly. We need your support to counter these lies by speaking up at home and telling your citizens that this agreement and an amended IHR will not and cannot cede sovereignty to WHO and that it belongs to the member states. The reality is quite the opposite. You're safeguarding national sovereignty while strengthening global health security. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. It's not a zero-sum game. The agreement is negotiated by countries, for countries, and will be implemented in countries in accordance with your own national laws. And I know you're doing this considering into account that this will bring to your citizens. In fact, these processes have the potential to empower countries in critical ways. They can help to ensure that countries have the systems, tools, capacities, and infrastructure for effective, timely, and equitable pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. This is not a choice between global health security and national or regional interests. It's about working together towards a safer, healthier, and more equitable world for all.
They make it sound so nice, don't they? But make no doubt about it. If this treaty gets signed by the Australian government, then the WHO will have the power to lock us down regardless of what our government or us say. The WHO will be able to gain control of assets. Those assets will probably come dressed or driving white vehicles. And as we know, there are already many international forces in our land masquerading as police. We've got people currently on our roads masquerading as police who are not Australian citizens, particularly in Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria, where, unsurprisingly, they've been unable to get too many excited Aussie recruits to go in there. Just the psychopaths, because they've been given a green light to go out and play however they want to play. Hopefully that has changed. It does seem to have. The community policing aspects in Victoria that I'm hearing about are much greater, but there is a long way to go, and there is still a lot of filth in the police forces, particularly in Queensland, that needs to be cleaned out, needs to be routed by honest coppers, of which, God, I hope there are many. Honest coppers who will stand by the people and do the right thing. A bit like the military. I mean, well, that's another story. We'll get into that on another night. I'd like you to have a bit of a look at this about food systems, because Tedros and the WHO have been quite busy.
Our food systems are harming the health of people and planet. Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. Together, we can protect and promote the health of both people and planet.
See what they're doing? They're bringing climate and health together. Okay? This is the next battle line. They're bringing the climate and everything that's wrong with it and health together. So we're going to be better served on a plant-based diet. Forget that we'll fart more, okay? Because the cows, they're on a plant-based diet, but it's their methane that's got them in trouble. What happens now? Have you tried a celery juice? It'll make you fart. If you're not careful, it'll make you follow through. Hello to Skipper Pete. If we're going onto a more plant-based diet, aren't we all going to fart more? Isn't that going to hurt the ozone layer? Aren't we back in the same place? Are we only in 5, 10, 20 years? Will it be the case that we will only be able to see sheep and pigs and cows in a historical zoo? Will that be it? I won't let that happen. We can't let that happen. It's just pure idiocy. And yet, the idiocy seems to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and get free trips to Davos. So, who knew? Hey, who knew? Oh, look, new UFO.
Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing flying in the sky? Bruh, I don't know what that is.
So that's in Charlotte, North Carolina, a couple of nights ago.
What? It's flying over downtown. Oh, snap.
What are your thoughts? Do you want to have another look? I'll give you another look.
Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing flying in the sky? Bruh, I don't know what that is. What? It's flying over downtown. Oh, snap. Are y'all seeing?
I'll turn it off. I won't play it again. I don't know. It's not exactly the kind of UFO I would be expecting over Charlotte, North Carolina. North Carolina has an awful lot of very large bombers that are based in Air Force bases in North Carolina. In fact, it was one of the nuclear, probably still is, one of the nuclear launch bases for the old B-52 bombers. That looks a bit like a B-52 bomber with a whole bunch of fireworks blazing off it. I could be wrong. And I would have thought that any UFO that had been able to travel many light years to get here probably wouldn't leave a trail of smoke from its exhaust.
Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing flying in the sky? Bruh, I don't know what that is.
You can also see sparks coming out the back of that, off the back of those flames. They're
flying over
weird.
downtown. Oh, snap.
And there is a certain jet noise in the background there too. So I don't know. You take that for whatever you think it is. There has been some interesting news coming out of Europe. Now, we've all seen Volodymyr Zelensky begging for money recently. Well, turns out he's not getting money. He might be getting a few
Today
friends.
announced the kickoff of Exercise Steadfast Defender 2024, which commences next week and runs through May. Steadfast Defender 24 will be the largest NATO exercise in decades, with participation from approximately 90,000 forces from all 31 allies, plus our good partner, Sweden. The alliance will demonstrate its ability to reinforce the Euro-Atlantic area via transatlantic movement of forces from North America. This reinforcement will occur during a simulated emerging conflict scenario against a near-peer adversary. Steadfast Defender 24.
A near-peer adversary. They're gaming it out, folks, right in front of us, and that's their plan all along. They will push us to the brink and maybe even a little further from it. It's probably going to get a little scary in the not too distant future. So why don't I try and give you some good news? This is a good bit of news. A federal court in Atlanta, Georgia, computer science and engineering professor J. Alex Holderman was able to hack a Dominion voting tabulator in front of a U.S. district judge, Amy Totenberg, using only a pen to change the vote totals. Nah, you can't hack a Dominion voting machine. Not at all, not at all, not at all. Some good news from House Republicans. They've introduced legislation to defund the World Economic Forum. The Defund Davos Act would specifically block any federal agency from providing funding to the WEF. The US has spent tens of millions on the WEF over the years, something GOP lawmakers say needs to end. They have control of the House, so I would have thought that that'll get through. Pretty cool. Housing in Australia is going to be apartments in the future. Lots and lots and lots of apartments. More people are living in smaller and smaller dwellings. Meanwhile, homeowners who own their land they're on are sitting on it pretty well until the government comes and takes it off them. And you can ask Randall Workis about how the government comes and takes your house off you. In fact, there's a couple of people you can go and ask about that. We'll talk more about that in days and weeks ahead too. Why so many apartments? I'll tell you why. We're getting 750,000 Indians next year. All right? They'd love to live in an apartment. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. The bigger the better, the more friends they can have. That's why. And convincing them to go and move out to middle of nowhere is, well, both good and bad. But if you can convince them out there, then, they get adopted into the communities immediately, wonderfully. Has been my experience every time. But if you start putting these folks in enclaves, in little enclave groups, or setting up new little suburbs with these sorts of accommodations, we're just setting ourselves up for trouble. More and more trouble. And, the only reason that apartments are being built is because they're fast. Those building them can make a big return out of them very, very quickly. And all the Indians that are coming are cashed up middle upper classes. They're not sending the poor ones over. They're sending out the ones who can afford to walk in and buy one of these places straight off, out of the price range of most Australians. And, given Albo Sleazy is going to be backing down on the tax cuts, particularly for the wealthy, I'm sure they won't be backing away from the poor and middle income earners, but they'll certainly be backing away from the wealthy. They'll be saying, "Oh, look, we've increased the tax-free threshold from $18,200 to $20,200, so that's another $360 tax cut that you'll get straight away." Well, everybody will get that, even the high-income earners, right? So that'll be their tax cut. They might get a little bit off if they're lucky, but I suspect all they're going to get is that line. Oh, look, you're going to get the $2,000 between the 18,200 and the 20,200 of the no tax threshold. Congratulations, yip-yah. That's going to make a lot of very wealthy people pretty unhappy, I would have thought. But look, if you're not unhappy with the Labor government yet, what else do you need? I mean, seriously, you can't trust a word out of any of their mouths. Not one of them's ever held a friggin' job. Google. Did you know this? Adreno is the processor, the GPU, the graphics processing unit. That's the name of it, Adreno. And what is the operating system? Chrome, of course. Adrenochrome. Just saying. These things are out there. And if you hadn't already known this about the logo, they've handily printed that out for you too. The 666 gives you an idea of what they're all on about. Now, many of you might remember a name, the name of a guy. Well, I think everybody probably remembers his name because he's a fairly famous guy at the end of the day. Famous for a lot of things, but right now, you'd probably know him because of some software that he designed a while back. I'm talking about John McAfee. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, McAfee died supposedly in a jail in Spain. We don't believe that was the case. We believe he was taken out of Spain same day on a military aircraft, actually have the flight tracked and pictures of it. So what did he do to gain such special privilege? Well, the US government was after him. The tax department were after him. They didn't think he'd paid enough tax, or they didn't think he'd paid enough of this or that or the other. And he was in Belize, which is, I suspect, a nice, beachside tax haven somewhere. They raided his place in Belize and smashed up $500,000 worth of equipment, but really pissed him off when they shot his dog. So what did McAfee do? McAfee went and gave brand new top-of-the-line laptops to all of the secretaries in the Pentagon and the White House. Basically, at the top end of government, gave them all a brand new, thank you, how's your mother, laptop. And in each one, he downloaded a backdoor so that he was able to access all the systems that those computers got access to. So he knows everything that they were doing. Now, John McAfee has recently resurfaced. Let's say that from the grave, because nobody that I know at least has actually seen him in person, but he has resurfaced and is starting to make statements again. Maybe these statements were recorded years ago. They do look a bit grainy, but I will have some of them for you, hopefully in the next few days, to show them to you and get your opinion. He has some very, very interesting things to say about Barack Obama, and the proof that he can offer to back those things up should be, well, explosive if it actually comes out. I want you to have a look at something very closely. Get up close to your TV, because this is a quick and little video. Quick, up. Here we go.
It's not the same as it was in this world. It's just us. We know it's not the same. So when you gonna tell?
Did you see the shadow? Can anybody explain how an aircraft flying at a given altitude, pretty high, let's say somewhere between 30 and 40,000 feet, which turned on and turned off its contrail, also had a shadow above it, reflecting off what?
It's not the same as it was in this world. It's just us. We know it's not the same. So when you gonna tell?
Where does that come from? How is there a reflection of the aircraft above the aircraft? And what is it reflecting off? Come on, Kev. Keen on an answer for that one. I'm not sure Kev is watching the show anymore, but I don't know how you explain that. I can't think of anything else that it could be I guess it's possible. That the white top of an aircraft, the sun in the right position, the clouds in the right position, could reflect a shadow onto the cloud. However, if we have one more look at this, see whether or not that shadow passes on the cloud or behind it.
You know it's not the same as it was in this world. It's just us. We know it's not the same. So when you gonna tell?
I want to say it's behind it. Don't you? Interested in your thoughts. Little weird one there. Now, we've been talking a lot about weather weapons and the kind of crap that they get up to. We've been watching our radars doing some pretty weird kind of things. I came across this little explanation of HAARP.
What they're doing is creating a virtual antenna in the sky that radiates extremely low frequency signals that travel worldwide and can be heard in the deepest depths of our oceans. This virtual antenna is called a ionospheric Alvin resonator, IAR, is using the ionosphere as an antenna. So it could be considered a geophysical weapon. Heating the ionosphere with high frequency radio waves will produce Alphin waves and magnetosonic waves, MS waves, standing oscillations of the geomagnetic field lines, which behave as strings with ends fixed in the ionosphere. So when you move it up here, a standing wave can occur along these magnetic field lines, and compressive magnetohydrodynamic waves, magnetosonic waves, come straight through. Now, magnetosonic are the lowest of low frequencies there are. We're talking 0 to like 1 hertz. Right here, you're going to see spectrum for HAARP ULF start experiment, ambient noise. There's the Schumann resonance right there. And then 60 hertz, you can see now HAARP has been turned on. Do you see the difference? This was our ionosphere, naturally occurring, nothing happening. Ambient noise, they call it. Now they turn HAARP on. Spectrum at HAARP ULF start, noise increase by 10 to 20 decibels between 0.7 to 10 hertz. And our Schumann resonance, our heartbeat of our planet, has now disappeared. It's gone. And there's now a spike at 60 hertz, which I don't know if you know this, but happens to be the same tone that's in your wall, in your electricity, that drives you batshit crazy.
It's also the flicker rate of most TVs, 60 hertz. You know, better TVs will be at 100 hertz, but the refresh rate in most TVs will be 60, and most computers will be at 60 to 80 hertz, unless you've got a really good screen, in which case it's likely to be 100 or better. So bear that one in mind as we move forward. Look, there are a couple of other things I was going to talk about tonight. Queensland power outages was one of them, but we did sort of mention that before. I will say the power outages at the moment, this is a little old, but this is pretty much around Brisbane over the last 24, 48 hours or so. These are not outages because trees have fallen on power lines or we've had strikes of lightning or anything else. These are outages because the system can't keep up. Queensland provides a stable base load for Queenslanders, but it also has to provide into the national grid. And because New South Wales, South Australia and Victoria have all come off coal-fired power stations, they require more base load power, meaning there is less available for Queenslanders. Now, we're about to go into cyclone season, and as we've already spoken about, people in far north Queensland are going to cop it again for the second time in 2 months. And, well, really for the second time in a month. And power is going to be an issue for a variety of reasons. But when the power is meant to be turned on, we should, in a civilized country, in a first world country, we should be able to expect the lights and more particularly the air conditioner to work. The Queensland government, and I can't lay it all at the feet of this idiot that now runs the state, Miles, but he's been part of it for the last, well, better part of 10 years. So he can take a great deal of the responsibility for it. And I don't know what's going to happen in coming weeks, particularly in South Australia. I know there have been rolling blackouts in parts of South Australia recently. Victoria, your base power load is shot. So whatever you're getting coming through the connector from Queensland, all well and good, great. But on a hot day down there and a hot day up here, Queenslanders are going to miss out. We also miss out because the sun goes down at 6 o'clock in the evening here. It does cool off a little bit when the sun goes down, I will admit, but it's also the time everybody gets home and turns on their air conditioners, and everybody in Victoria does the same thing, or New South Wales, or wherever else our power's going. So we need to be looking at much better ways of feeding into the grid, because these bloody great fans that they're putting up and abusing disgustingly our landscape with aren't working. I can guarantee you the wind farms in far north Queensland will be turned off right now because the wind will be too strong. Okay, it's a cyclone. No, over 20 knots, it's too strong. Over 20 knots. Less in some cases, I believe. Over 10 knots in some places. Seriously, these things cost over $100 million to build per unit. They never, ever, ever generate enough electricity to cover their own cost of build. Ever. And then we're left with trying to figure out what to do with them when they blow a oil seal, catch fire, and fall to the ground. Or worse still, into the sea, where they'll just, I dare say, become reefs for the fish at some point. This idiocy has to stop, folks. This idiocy has to stop. War isn't the only thing they're going to try and scare us with. Disease X, as I mentioned last show, is going to be another one of those. And turns out, one from left field I wasn't expecting. Ta-da! Arctic zombie viruses in the Siberia could one day be unleashed on Earth's warming climate and trigger a new pandemic. Zombie viruses. I have no doubt they exist. I mean, God knows what sort of shit is buried way down deep in the ice. I mean, got to be some evil stuff from back in the day that just got frozen. I have no doubt. But now it's Siberia. So we're being warmed to the idea that the zombie virus in Siberia, which is in Russia, God, they're going to come after us with a zombie virus. That's if we don't die from the Ebola vaccination. Yep, they're doing it in America and in the UK. Tests, supposedly, clinical trials on, well, they're saying health staff who are working with Ebola patients. Why wouldn't you be testing it on the Ebola patient, not the staff? Anyway, it's a vaccine. We know how well that's going. And it's an Ebola vaccine. Unfortunately, it sheds really badly, like a lot. What does that mean? Well, that means if you are unfortunately riding the tube or the subway home that night after being involved in this test, and you shake hands, bump hands, sit on a seat, wipe your ass, do something, and somebody else touches you, they're likely to gain a taste of Ebola. Now, what is a taste of Ebola like? My guess is it'll kill you because you don't have the antibodies yet to fight it off, which supposedly the Ebola vaccine is going to give you. Now, would you believe that they're testing it on health people in the health system? Not likely. Wouldn't believe a word that comes out of their freaking mouths. But be prepared. That's going to be. We did tell you that Ebola was going to be one of the outbreaks they were planning to bring out. Marburg is a part Ebola-based, scare proposition that's going to be coming our way. So just remember, don't be taking any of the jabs, because ain't nothing good coming from it. All right, folks, going to love you and leave you tonight. I am going to record something and put it up tomorrow. I will post it up after lunch tomorrow at some stage before I've got to leave. It's something I've been thinking about for the last few days. Last couple of days I haven't been terribly well, but it's been something that's been on my mind for the last 3 or 4 days. And I've come to a bit of a decision in my mind about what I'd like to do going forward. And I think it starts with an apology. So tomorrow I'm going to apologize to some people. I did think about doing it tonight, but I haven't finished writing it yet. So I will make that tomorrow night's show, and we'll see what goes from there. I am going to have dinner with Cass tomorrow night down the Gold Coast. So that's why there won't be a live show as such. I'm looking forward to catching up with her. She's been out at her property with the bunch of other owners out there. I think they've had a pretty fine sort of a weekend. And it was a fine weekend. It was a beautiful weekend weather-wise. The property has taken a bit of a beating with that tornado that came through around Christmas time. But I guess the upside of that is there's a whole heap of firewood out there right now. Anyway, folks, be safe on the roads. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and stick clear of those dickheads, won't you?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!